We're here at the country of the Star-Spangled Banner. Welcome along to the United States Grand Prix, round number 4 of the ISRL Tier 1 Formula 1 World Championship. Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching ISRL Esports live as we bring you live coverage of this United States Grand Prix around the Circuit of the Americas. We've been through the first 2 tiers, and they are drenched in rain throughout some part of the session. Will we see that today as well? Of course, if you're joining us for the first time in Tier 1, it's a full qualifying session followed by a 50% race. And let's get set and ready for action here today. Of course, joined again by Fallen Monkeys in the commentary booth. Glad to have you back after last week, and it's going to be a good one here in the United States for sure. What can we expect from everybody heading into round number 4?
Oh, thanks for having me. Oh my goodness, I'm excited to be back once again in the commentator's booth for the Tier 1 race. And I expect a lot. Circuit of the Americas, it's not the easiest track in the world, especially around Sector 1 with the S sections, even Sector 3 right before that long right-hander. I know the left right before that is very, very difficult. It's very easy to put the power on. So as long as I believe the drivers are comfortable with the setups, comfortable with the way the car feels, they shouldn't have an issue, but that's very easier said than done, I would say.
As we see the sun sitting a little lower than normal, cars are coming out and are getting ready for the first couple of laps in Q1, which is an 18-minute session. Drivers allowed to go out as many times as they want to try to set the best lap possible and make it into Q2. We have 17 drivers on the grid at the moment, so the cutoff point is at the 15th spot, so where Chris is at the moment. So only 16th and 17th will be knocked out, so you don't want to be in that bottom 2 for sure, as the person currently furthest out on track is Extra Rotation in the Alfa Romeo Orland car. The Circuit of the Americas is a long, new track in the F1 calendar. Hasn't been around for too long, but it has created some exciting racing. Of course, the blind uphill turn number 1 is a fantastic corner to behold, both in real life and in the game, and I expect that it's going to be no different here in this United States Grand Prix. We're going to see some really awesome overtakes, I think, heading in the turn 1 as Extra Rotation coming into near the 3rd sector to begin his first lap.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see. I don't think we've seen Extra Rotation here here in any of the tiers so far. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm excited to see, because I'm right on board with him, to see what he can do here on his flying lap. To see if he can put up the time and compete with the likes of Jer, the likes of Sweet Crown 19, and all these other drivers that are insanely fast here. And I actually do want to take a moment and talk about Sweet Crown 19. It's hard not to after what happened last week, but I expect a big bounce back from the likes of Sweet Crown 19 after unfortunately suffering an incident around Zandvoort last week.
Definitely, I think I expect a different side coming out of Sweet Crown 19. Will the gloves come off a little bit more if they do, in fact, get side by side? We'll have to wait and see. Sweet Crown 19 is no fool. He will race well enough to keep himself in the race, but I'm sure he may be a little bit more forceful if he has to come in contact with the AlphaTauri driver, who is now just a little bit closer in the championship than before due to that retirement. A big loss of points. Top 15 score points in the tiers in ISRL Esports, and the top spot getting about 42 points, I believe, and all those points down the drain in that race, and he was not able to score, of course, plowing into the wall after the contact. So we'll have to wait and see what he does today. Sweet Crown 19, very good at the United States Grand Prix, winning it last season, so I suspect he'll try to replicate that performance this week as Extra Rotation is about to come around the final corner with another big lockup, a few of them in this lap, and he will go fastest of a 131.2.
Alright, so not a bad time here just to put on the board to start off Q1. I've been actually riding with Sweet Crown 19 since we were talking about him. Set up purple Sector 1, so definitely coming out of the gates flying here around the Circuit of the Americas. Like you said, it is a very good track for him, so I expect nothing less. But we'll see. It looks like a Stunek, he said a 132.9. So probably a banker lap for him on this soft tires just to put something on the board. And there we go. Another purple sector for Sweet Crown 19 as he just gets through sector 2. But has a bit of a lockup around around that left turn I was talking about before the long right-hander there. So that might affect him a little bit as he's just about to finish his lap now.
And coming into the final turn, Sweet Crown 19 championship leader, looking for some redemption, is going to obviously go fastest with that lap. It's a 130.1 and already towards the 129s. If we're lucky, we may see somebody dip into the 128s, which are the fastest timed on time trials. But a 129, low 129, I'm sure will suffice as well for pole position, as Sophion goes third fastest. That's a 131.7. Estunik, again, who is in reserves in this race, as Kush goes second fastest. Estunik in reserves again in this United States Grand Prix as he goes rather wide and kicks up a little bit of gravel. He'll be looking to impress. Of course, you do want to get up into those further tiers. Does a good race in Tier 1 instantly give you that reputation? Or maybe bring him up a tier or not? Or does he have to work a little bit harder for that one? We'll have to wait and see if he can make it in the Q2.
We'll have to see. I do think that, I mean, as much as a good impression does help, I do think it takes more than just a single race to earn that seat, right? Because there's always the chance of the one-off races, right? And I feel like we're looking for lots of consistency within the drivers for the most part. So if the likes of a Stunek or any of these reserve drivers can just show consistent pace and consistent finishes, they might have a good chance of being considered for some higher tiers, over the course of the next season and further seasons to come afterwards.
As I'm running on board with Pubed in the Williams racing car. Of course, Pubed teammates the Sweet Crown 19 as he goes fastest in the first sector already. Pubed is not a driver to mess around with, and I think a little underestimated a lot of the time. We look at Isaac Kush, you look at Jared, looked at Sweet Crown 19, but Pubed, really the silent horse, I think, a lot of the time in the races, but can really show some blistering pace, especially in qualifying, and has pretty good race pace as well. So I think we should stop making him the dark horse and pay a little bit more attention to Pubed, because when he gets it on, there is nobody better than him as he's about to come into the second sector. And it's not the fastest sector 2 time, but I'm sure it is up there as he's heading in to set his first lap.
Oh yeah, and definitely with the likes of Pubed, he's always been up there even in the previous seasons. Now I know the general speed of Tier 1 has increased, but I still feel as though Pubed has been very unlucky here in this third season. So lots of, I guess, unfortunate incidents, kind of getting caught up in...
and Izat's out!
Yeah,
Izat's out of the session now. It's a 135. That might be safe for Q number 2, just again, because there's only going to be 2 retirements, 2 knockouts in Q1, but Isaac Kush is out of the session. I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure if he is on track. There's only one McLaren. There is 2 McLarens. I don't know if he retired. I don't know if he retired in the pit lane, but is that a little bit premature from Isaac? Do you think he's underestimating the grid a little bit, or do you think that 130.5 is a safe time to get into the next session?
I'm looking at the times. I do think it is a pretty safe time, at least in terms of Q1 for the top 15. Just because I really don't see us getting closer to the 129s, probably until closer to like Q2, Q3. And even when you're looking under, there's a lot of high 132s, even some high 131s. So they're all going to have probably at least a good half a second to a second and a half to catch up. But, I've seen crazier things happen, so it's hard to say, really. But it could just be just a matter of, conserving tires. Maybe Izat's got a strategy for the race that just involves, keeping some extra tires handy.
Chris 85 with that Michael Schumacher helmet on, the tribute helmet, and it's P11 for him at the moment. Goes ahead of ISRL Knight, sitting in P12. Not the best lap time either, with a 1:32.1, and somebody, that is Jer, who goes second fastest, and thousandths of a second separate him and Sweet Crown 19.6 is exactly that, separate the two championship rivals. So they're already punching in some very competitive times along with each other. So maybe we'll see a little bit of a closer battle than we did see last season, because really Sweet Crown 19 ran away with that championship. And while we did see Jer in the background, it was never a definitive challenge. I think we've seen a different Jer this season, and a Jer that's going to really challenge Sweet Crown 19 for the championship. As I will continue on, there's Jamian, who's currently 7th fastest in the blacked out Mercedes, and he is ahead of his teammate ISRL Carter, who is sitting in 10th. Of course, Carter has not had great qualifyings before this, so hopefully he can get a good qualifying, get himself in the Q2, as Knight continues to drop down further, currently on an outlap right now, as I have no idea why he has an American flag on his helmet, because he's clearly Canadian, as he loves the show. So I think that's a little bit of a glitch on our end, but he does have the USA flag on him in this race. Estunic, of course, definitely from America, and would love to get a good result in his home Grand Prix. A few American drivers on the grid, Pubed being one of them. In fact, I believe Pubed is the highest up American driver at the moment, so he would love to get a good result, maybe even possibly get a victory here today, as Estunic's going to come across the line and go P10 with a much better 1:31.4. And then Knight is now on the cusp of elimination, sitting down in 15th, with Jediant and Gurman yet to, there's Gurman finally coming out of the pit, Jediant also yet to set a lap time.
Yep, and word on the pit wall, just from what I'm hearing with Jediant, is that he's having a bit of connection issues just due to a storm in his area. He's running into some thunderstorms and whatnot. So we might be seeing him kind of lagging in, lagging out, which a lot of it has to do with the connection issues around then. Hopefully all of that can get resolved for him before the start of the race. Ideally, the sooner the better, so that he's not hindered too much, you know, both himself and some of the other drivers that are going to be driving around him. There we go. He just joined back in now, just speak of the devil, so hopefully he's in for good. Now,
one thing I do want to note here is that Knight is very on the cusp, so he has to improve on this lap. Cannot afford an invalidation here, but he's got Gurman behind him, and, you know, this comes into a little bit of a bit of a predicament. You know, you don't want to knock out your teammate in qualifying, but obviously you also want to do well, and we've seen this far too many times where teammates are hindering each other, and eventually one of those teammates is going to be your end in qualifying, and Knight has himself in that position with this 132. He's the only driver in the 132s at the moment, Chris ahead of him, so he definitely has to get further up the grid. Doesn't want to have to deal with the possibility of a Red Bull knocking out another Red Bull. That would be quite disastrous. So ISRL Knight actually goes purple in the second sector, so some extra pace coming out of that Honda engine, and let's see if he can put it near the top step of the qualifying sheets in Q1. About 5 minutes left to go in the session as he's coming through the final few turns. A Ferrari clearly cut the track there, and I think that was Sophion ahead of him. Yes, it was, and in fact it was an invalidation. As here comes ISRL Knight, should be good, and yes, P4 ahead of Isaac Kush, who retired, and it's almost an identical time, hundredths of a second separating those two drivers, as ISRL Knight puts it in P4, and that's going to easily get him into the second qualifying session. Gurman is still now not had set. He was out of the pit lane. He has come back into the pits, and I'm not too sure what's happening with Gurman, but the winner of the Dutch Grand Prix after a penalty, as he nope, still not deciding to come out. The winner of the Dutch Grand Prix after a penalty has not even come out of the pit lane yet to set an actual lap.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what's happening with Gurman in terms of his qualifying one. I'm not. Maybe it could just be a matter of, I don't know, if the strategy worked so well last time, maybe he's going to work it again, sort of fly under the radar, starting from the back of the grid, work his way back up to the front. But we'll see. Maybe he's just going to wait until the end of Q1 when the track is at the at its quickest for the session and just try to set one last.
Here we go with Jedian. Jedian is now going to try to set a lap. Now I want to look here at Chris, Sophion, and Carter a little bit. Especially, I think Carter is in a bit of a danger zone. Sophion behind him. So is Chris, who is on a lap. Jediant, also Gurman, who has not set a lap time as he's about to come out of the pit lane.
Yep,
so it's gonna Carter, who has just gone into the pits, I don't presume is going to come out again for another lap. Might be in a bit of trouble here if he doesn't get out soon. So Fion now on that out lap. Jedian is in fastest in the first sector, so we know Jedian has serious pace around here. So I'm expecting Carter should want to get out soon, and you even can see now, yep, there is that Mercedes coming out and will try to set another lap time. I think he noticed it well. He is definitely in the danger zone of getting knocked out of Q1, something that he does not want to happen in this home Grand Prix, as a few drivers coming out to set a few final laps. Infamous Pillars back out in the Haas, so while I don't believe it is Infamous Pillars' home race, it is definitely the home race for the Haas driver. And he's the only Haas driver. Duwell is not on the grid today.
Nope. So Infamous Pill is probably going to be expecting a good result for the home country team there. And no, I'd like to see a good result from him as well. It'd be nice to see somebody other than Jer really take it to Sweet Crown 19 for the battle for the lead. I'd like to see.
There is P4 for Jediant. And now Carter is in the danger zone on the out lap. There's about 2 minutes left to go, so he should get around for another lap. So Fion is about to begin, and so is Gurman, just going a little slowly, making sure that he has got the optimal start for this lap. Now breaking into the final turn, and let's begin. Gurman in the Red Bull with another lap on the board. And Carter just coming around with about a minute and 40 to go, so should easily make it around to start another lap. Question is, can he go faster than that 131.4 that he has on board?
Yeah, I'll have to take a look. I mean, if you're the likes of, I was just keeping an eye on the likes of Chris and Lewis. Given that you've got basically 13 to 17 all running sometimes, I'd be a little bit worried if I was sitting in 11th, 12th. Just looking at the gaps, I would say. There's only about maybe 2-3 tenths that are separating, that are kind of separating almost 11th to 15th. Right, and so it's not crazy to think that they could go much faster than that.
Here comes Carter, starting a lap, going through the S's. Very easy to invalidate your time, right on the limit, just about right there, coming out of the exit of that turn. And pretty safe ride through the rest of this. Do be careful on this next turn he's coming up on. If you extend the track, you can invalidate. He doesn't, but he's good to go. And coming into Sector 2, I didn't see any personal bests, however, for Carter, so this is not looking so far so good. We'll have to wait and see if he can improve further in the lap. Sophion does not have a great time on the board at the moment. But here comes Sophion. In fact, it looked like he was down on the time, and it is going to go 11. So now Carter into 16th place as Dunic.
What's he going to do?
15th. So not a huge improvement. And Carter is only down by about a tenth of a second, so it is possibly good enough to get ahead of Stunek, but maybe not Gurman. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be very, very close as we're continuing to ride on board, as Stunek as well is slower on the current lap time at the moment. Coming around the final turn, let's see where Carter ends up with this lap time. It's looking pretty good. Comes across the line, and 12th fastest. But that's going to knock Gurman down into 16th place. And one of the Red Bull men is not making it into the next session. Extra rotation is on the cusp right now as Stunek. Let's see if he can improve this lap time. Coming through the penultimate turn. Looked pretty good through there. Now the final turn for Stunek. Going to come across the line, and it's an invalidation.
Oh, no.
But it was going to be slower nonetheless. And Gurman, though, I believe, is out of qualifying. And yes, he is. It's Stunek and Gurman who get knocked out of this first qualifying session. And it's got to hurt a little bit more when you're down in those bottom two positions because of an uneven grid, that you're the last two drivers that get knocked out. It's got to sting just a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely stings a little bit, just because there's it's tough being the bottom two drivers, especially when you're so close that it's just maybe messing up one braking point or messing up one entry to a turn is pretty much what could have made the difference between making it through to Q2 or having to sit through these next two qualifying sessions and potentially kind of getting out of the mindset. I mean, even more so for the likes of Gernman, who he won last race, so he was probably coming into COTA here expecting a good showing from him after riding that confidence boost.
To be fair, though, Gernman did come from almost last to do that, so while there is confidence, maybe there's even more confidence that even if he is this low down on the grid, he should be able to make it further up the grid and possibly challenge for another victory. Penalties pending, maybe performance pending. We'll have to wait and see, but going down the order a little bit, Sweetcrown 19 in first, Jaren second, Josh 2 in third, Jadine in fourth. ISRL Knight rounds off the top 5. Good for him in Q1. Isaac Cush in 6th, Pubed in 7th, 8th for Infamous Pillars, 9th for Jamian, 10th for ISRL VR, Sophion in 11th, 12th for Carter, 13th for Lewis, Chris in 14th. Rounding off the top 15 is extra rotation, and it is Gurman and Stunik in 16th and 17th to get knocked out in the first qualifying session, as we're going to get ready for Q number 2 in just a few moments' time. A pretty good qualifying session. Still sunny skies out here. I'm not expecting any rainfall. I haven't heard anything.
No,
so we'll have to wait and see.
And not through my insider on the pit wall knowledge, I don't think there was any rain in the forecast. Seems like there's a confirmation of no rain.
So no rain in the race, which is good for us only because this is a pretty long stream and rain only slows races. So thankfully there is no rain. It was torrential in the Tier 2 race, which I had the pleasure of racing in, and did in fact survive. So, wait a minute, I'm looking here. So, no, Knight is under the Canadian flag, but there was an American flag on his helmet, so we caught it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe a bit of a graphical glitch. I'm still in shock with the 6,000ths of a second difference between Jaren and Sweetcrown. Already, before we even get into the bulk of qualifying, we're already seeing these two powerhouses, I guess you could say, sort of duking it out, trying to put up the times and just best one another.
And here we go. There's a few more clouds in the sky, but it is still sunny and it is still dry, and that means super quick qualifying action. It's 15 minutes in Q2, same rules as before. Set as many lap times as possible to try to make it into Q3, the top 10 shootout. One of the greatest spectacles in motorsports to watch, a top 10 shootout in Formula 1. As the first driver going to be out is the Racing Point of ISRL, Chris, as he comes out of the pit lane in the United States Grand Prix to begin his outlap. And we see the two Williams drivers, it looks like back-to-back. That's Pubed and Pubed ahead of Sweetcrown 19. Sorry, Pubed behind Sweetcrown 19, the two Williams drivers. As everybody eager to get out to set their first laps in the second qualifying session. A pretty usual amount of drivers, I think, that we've seen here. Stunik, he is that is not... I just saw Pube there cutting a major portion of the S section. Now, where you're not allowed to cut major portions of the track, and that was clearly not an accident. So we'll have to wait and see if that will be looked at after the race. But Pube did, in fact, cut a major portion of the S section. But usual suspects here in Q2, all very quick drivers.
Oh yeah, now I didn't quite get to see the cut, at least on my end, so I can't speak much about it. So I'll have to see what's going to happen with that after the race. And I'm seeing pretty much everyone actually starting their out laps, so I think everyone's trying to get some some split stream or whatnot from one another around the track.
Is there rain coming to this session? Because this is rather odd to have every single person out on track, unless you're expecting rainfall later in the session. Now, it's looking pretty sunny to me, but I've never seen this many drivers try to set lap times as quick as possible. I have a feeling there's rain.
Yeah, and I was going to say, speak of the devil, I actually got a bit of an updated weather report. It appears as though there might be a chance of rain, but for Q3.
So Q3 rain.
Potential Q3 rain as the most up-to-date weather report. I think maybe just drivers, just in case the rain comes a little bit earlier, because now we've gone from no rain to rain in Q3, so for all we know, this could just be a quick-moving system in the game that just kind of just comes out of nowhere, similar to what we saw in the Tier 2 race. Maybe lots of drivers are looking to just get some times on the board.
Because when I watched the weather report in Q2, it said light rain pretty much throughout the sessions, so to see that heavy rain come in the middle of the race was a little unexpected.
Oh, yeah.
And then going back to inters and then finally dries on the final lap, which of course we saw Vito decide to go onto the dries. Ultimately not the good decision because nobody decided to pit except for me, but I was almost last, and it's not my tier, so not as much care for myself to where I finished. I was just happy I survived that race. Sweetcar 19 is going fastest in all the sectors, looking to set a good lap time as everybody is out on track setting lap times, and this is the chaos that is hard to keep up with in qualifying, but Sweetcar 19 is about to come across the line, so is a few other drivers ahead of him to set lap times.
First. With
And
a
it's a
133.1.
That's not a good time. Sweetcar 19 hits a 130 flat almost. So very good lap time by Sweetcar 19. Isaac Kush with a 130.3. And Jair goes second fastest. And oh my goodness, the thousandths of a second again. 5 thousandths of a second separating those two drivers. And it is inseparable, those two. Pubed is fourth fastest. Jedian in fifth. Sixth for Sophion, Jamie in seventh, Chris eighth. Extra rotation is coming around soon through, and I believe that was looked to be Carter who was off track a little bit there as he did in fact invalidate his time. Extra rotation coming across the line. Goes P5, a very good lap time by him. Almost got knocked out of the first qualifying session, but up to P5 at the moment as everybody has been setting lap times very quickly in this session. The clouds are getting a little bit more dense, but not any sign of rainfall, I would presume. Lewis about to come across the line. Only P9, so not safe at the moment to get into the next session. Chris is on the cusp, goes down a place. Lewis now on the cusp as somebody goes up. I believe it was Josh 2. Yes, in fact, Josh 2, who goes fourth fastest for 130.6. And he's into the top 5, pubed in the top 5 as well. So he'll be happy with that. The two Williams drivers very high up the grid order. So only people who have not yet set lap times are Infamous Pillars, Carter, VR, though, who is on a lap, and ISRL Knight in last. In P15, not setting a lap time yet.
Yeah, but Knight is just coming out now to get an outlap done, so we might see time on the board for him sooner rather than later. I'm looking at the times the drivers are putting up, and if you're anywhere around where I could throw extra rotation in there too, but I feel like if you're Jediant all the way down to Chris, where you're not really in the 130s, it might be a little worrisome because I do feel as though we'll probably see a lot of 130s by the end of the Q2 session here. So I would be, if I'm not in the 130s, I'd be a little bit worried personally, at least in this point in time in the qualifying session.
As VR Yerno goes 131.4. So that is the two Renault drivers in 7th and 8th on the grid. On out laps right now, Infamous Pillars and Knight. Carter still in the pit lane, has not yet set a lap time, and I think would want to do so. Again, this is his home race, so you do want to do well in your home race as one of the Mercedes drivers. And we see, actually, it looks like Carter is about to come out of the pit lane. As you can see, his jack moving a little bit. And here we go. There steps out the engineer as Carter will begin an outlap, trying to go a little bit faster in this session. So at the moment, the order right now, Sweetcar 19, Jer, Isaac Kush, Josh 2, Pubed, Extra Rotation, Jedian, ISRL VR, 46, So Fionn, Jamian is your top 10. And then it's Lewis, Chris, Infamous, Carter, and Knight who are currently on the possibility of getting knocked out in Q2. Extra rotation saying rain in 10 to 15 minutes time. That's a little bit too much longer than Q2, so it's definitely going to be Q3 rain. So the rush, I think, was a little bit... I think everybody just saw rain. They said, let's just get a lap time in. But ultimately, it's going to be Q3. We're going to see that rain come in. Now, how heavy it will be, we'll have to wait and see. But is that going to throw some spanner into the mix? Well, maybe we see a new driver who is maybe a little bit better in the rain get up into pole position today, as we're pretty much confirmed to have rain later.
Yeah, it appears though, and that'll, I mean, it's definitely something to keep in mind in terms of who can actually perform in the rain, since I figure most of the drivers probably have a dry setup on too, so it's a question of who can perform in the rain, and also who can perform in the rain with the dry setup. That kind of adds an extra little bit of, I feel like an extra little bit of finesse to the, you know, to the whole qualifying aspect of it. You know, I'm excited to see. I'm looking at the drivers who haven't set a time. It looks like Infamous Pillars is having a decent lap so far. Knight, unfortunately, he invalidated his laps, so he's gonna have to. I'm not too sure if he's gonna pit or if he's gonna go around for another one. But he might want to sort of get moving a little bit, and because right now he might not even make it through into Q3 if things ended right now. So I think he is going into the pits.
So yeah, now I'm hearing no rain in the comment section. I think it's Q3 that we're going to see the rainfall, because it is getting far more cloudy, which leads me to believe we're not actually going to see better lap times, because the track is going to decrease in temperature, and that ultimately means a little bit less grip in this scenario. Sometimes too much temperature means not enough grip when you need it, but the track's going to get a little colder as Infamous Pillars goes P4, so very good lap time by him.
Yep, good lap time for him. I'm riding with Carter personally on my end, and I just saw him set a purple first sector, so it's looking like a good lap for Carter, at least early on, as he's just flying down the back straight now, coming up to the end of the second sector.
ISRL Lewis about to come around the final turn. In fact, not, because he will go into the pit lane, not happy with the lap time, and down in P11 right now, so not currently in Q3. Carter now coming through the final few turns, about to finish this lap. Where will the Mercedes driver go on the grid? Looking to get a nice position in this race. As you can hear our custom ISRL Knight in the background, who is currently last right now in qualifying. I'm sure he's not too happy right now with his position, as Carter's going to come across the line and go P4 with a 130.3. So some extra pace. In fact, it's only hundredths of a second off of Isaac Kush, so looking very good right now. Currently in qualifying, should easily get in the Q3.
Oh yeah, and like for the likes of Carter, I feel he's always had the pace. We've just never been able to truly see the pace he has, I feel. But it seems like, at least so far in the Circuit of the Americas, he's definitely feeling the car, feeling the setup, and definitely shows, because that's a very solid 130.3 that he set. I would like to think that he's probably going to be pretty comfortable making it through into the Q3 session now. Extra rotations, I just noticed he retired from the session, and he's currently on the bubble. So I'm not too sure if he had an incident or if he just willingly retired, but
nonetheless, there's yellow flags everywhere. Knight is about to set another lap on an out lap right now, letting by looks to be Chris, who was on an hot lap right there. Let's see where Chris goes. Currently 14th on the grid, needs to be higher up in order to make it into the third qualifying session, and only P12. ISRL Knight has some slipstream, I want to mention, off of this racing point. ISRL Chris, so some advantage for the Red Bull driver as he does get out of the way, but that's going to help him coming into turn one.
Oh yeah, it'll definitely help him, give him a little bit of an extra speed boost going into the first turn. So we'll see if he can use that to his advantage and put a competitive lap time. Since I think at this point is sort of almost a do or die situation for him. because we're starting to run down to the end of the Q2 session, and since there's no time up on the board yet, if he doesn't put a time up now, then I'd be a little bit worried for him.
ISRL Knight coming down the DRS straight, that flap open, increasing the top end speed of your car as he brakes hard, flap closes, and it's Knight looking good right now, currently with his lap, and look to be at the purple sector 2 for the Red Bull drivers. So very, very quick right now. Carter sitting in P4, very happy in the comment section, making it into Q3, and a great result for him with his home Grand Prix. And here comes ISRL Knight coming around the final few turns. Can he make it into the top 10 in this session? Extra rotation on the cusp. I think that's not going to last for too much longer. Almost too wide out of the final, and it is P6 for Knight, and he will make it into Q3, surely, with that 130.5.
Yep, and that actually bumps extra rotation out of the top 10 shootout. So hindsight, definitely not the best idea to take that early retirement out of Q2. Because that actually means he won't even get a chance to compete again to try to make it into Q3.
I'm looking with ISRL Lewis right now, who's sitting in last, 132.1. So he really hasn't had a lot of pace here around the track. Made it into Q2, but is not having the same luck. And Jamian retires, currently P10. He's on the cusp right now of getting knocked out. Let's see what happens here. Lewis just coming around there. And Josh goes fastest in the Ferrari with a 130.068. And Lewis into the top 10. Pubed is on the cusp right now. A minute 18 to go. Should get around for another lap, but very unorthodox out of the Williams driver, who's currently on the cusp right now in qualifying 2.
Yep, and Sophion currently in 15th now. It looks like he's just about to come around and finish his next flying lap. So we'll see if he can improve. It's looking like a better time.
But only 14th.
Improved a little bit, but not quick enough. So as I was thinking, if you're not sitting in the 130s, you're not looking too hot in terms of making it into Q3.
If you're not sitting in the 130.7s, you're not looking too hot, because Jamie and extra rotation, they're out despite having 130 times. And here comes Pubed, needs to get a faster lap time on the board because he is right there, and we still have actually no, I think he might be safe.
He might be okay. Because the likes of Sophion, he's already done 2 laps, so unless he's going to try to really fly around one last time, I think that might be it for him. VR46, he just went into the pits, and so he definitely won't have time to get another lap. So I think you might just be alright, but for the sake of trying to put up a better time...
No, Sophion is done, as he does not open up his DRS flap down the straight,
yeah.
So that is going to be a safe time for Pubed. Pretty lucky, to say the least, as he is going a little bit faster though on this lap, so definitely doesn't want to be on the cusp, wants to get a little bit further up. Lewis will be safe into Q3. He'll be very happy with that, as it's fastest in the second sector, so Pube looking to get ahead of that Ferrari driver, Josh 2, who set a surprise fastest lap in the second qualifying session. And we haven't seen those 129 yet, but I suspect we will in the third qualifying session. As
so as long as the rain doesn't hinder the times a little bit going into this Q3.
I hope we see it, but we may not. Well, here we go, coming into only 4th.
There we go.
So again, I do want to say this. This happened a few times. Pube set some very good first 2 sectors. The third sector has hampered Pubed in a couple of different tracks so far in this season. Is it a last sector judder, or is it just this track maybe specifically? It's just been a bad run of tracks in that third sector for him, because he was looking quickest until that third sector, and then only 4th. I mean, it's not bad. It's just we expect possibly to keep up that momentum coming into the third sector.
Oh yeah, but the third sector it's a very difficult sector, just generally speaking. So it's very easy to lose out on a lot of time. But I'll actually let you walk us through the I guess the grid order
It is Josh 2, Sweet Crown 19, Jer, Pubed, Isaac, Kush, Carter, Infamous Pillars, Knight, Jediant, and Lewis, who make it into the top 10 shootout. Jamie in extra rotation, VR 46, Sophion, and Chris are knocked out of the second qualifying session. And let's get set for action, ladies and gentlemen. It's the top 10 shootout in ISRL Esports around the Circuit of the Americas for the United States Grand Prix. If you're just watching us, we are ISRL Esports. You're watching live coverage of the Tier 1 Formula 1 World Championship here at the Circuit of the Americas. The track is even more cloudy than before, and I can see a raindrop. Nope, there is a raindrop coming down from the sky, and it is going to be very, very wet, very quick, I believe. I don't know if drivers are going to try to
dry from what I can see.
But there is rain. There's rain. I'm seeing rain on my end. There is rain on my end.
Right.
So there's a Ferrari immediately coming out. It's Josh 2. And we're going to see this now, a rush to try to get a lap time on the board. Ooh, but the Renault gets ahead of him. Jediant got ahead of Josh 2. And so but then Infamous Pillars. So a little bit of a push and shove already. And look at that big line of cars. You can see the two Williams drivers as well. And this is going to be very interesting as they try to get lap times on the board before the rain comes down. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, Q3, 12 minutes to go, but it might be shorter. If the drivers get lap times on these dry tires, then we will probably see a lot of drivers retire out of the session. You may see a few practice on that wet tire. I don't think it's going to be wet in the race, so I don't know if they want to exactly have to practice. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen, Q3. It's going to be interesting.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see it. This might be, Q3 might just start with a bang and end with a whisper, depending on what the conditions look like. I didn't see the rain initially. I'm definitely seeing it now, so we'll see how that'll play into effect. Everyone going out on out laps, even Lewis had just gone out on his, so he just looked like he bought a little bit more time. So we'll see if that's actually going to play to his advantage or maybe even his disadvantage depending on if these conditions get better or worse as qualifying goes on. At the same time, if you're the likes of Sweet Crown, Cubed, all stuck in that little top 5 pack, do you think they're actually going to give themselves some room, or do you think there's going to be some hindrance as it goes on?
I think they need to get around the track ASAP because the rain is coming down more and more. And they need to get lap times, but they are slowing up a little bit. I don't recommend this. They need to get a move on because the rain is going to come down eventually. He's going to let by a McLaren of Isaac Kush, and Isaac can't do anything. Oh, big wheel spin coming out of the last turn for Pube. And here we go. Lap times are starting. Drivers ahead of other drivers. This is really going to go down the slipstream and dirty air, I think, for some of these drivers. What will happen here? Who's going to get pole? It's going to get worse and worse and worse on track. So really, these times are probably going to be the fastest we see. And Pube is struggling under these dry/wet conditions and off track and invalidated for Pube. That might be it for him. And his teammate, Sweet Crown 19, currently still good to go.
Yeah, but watching Sweet Crown 19, I think he might have actually been hindered a little bit by his teammate who was getting out of the way in what was maybe not the best spot ever, because I kind of saw a little bit of a shake with the like Sweet Crown 19 trying to figure out where his teammate was going to go, so that might actually hinder him a little bit.
And Jer hard to get on the power as he's going down. That DRS is still activated at the moment, so that is going to help them a little bit. Infamous Pillars is actually fastest in the second sector for a little sec there, but not for long. And then Sweet Crown fastest. Sweet Crown fastest in the second sector, looking good, but he's got a Ferrari right behind his back who is on an invalidated lap, and I don't necessarily agree with that. You can see the track is getting a little more shiny, a little more reflective. Sweet Crown 19 needs to get this lap time on the board because this is going to be the fastest from him as the track continues to de-evolution, as coming into the final sector, keeping it nice and controlled. Final turn to navigate. Infamous Pillars of a 140.9. Very slow times with the mixed conditions. Isaac Kush fastest. Sweet Crown 19 isn't fastest. It's Isaac Kush who's currently on pole. Jer only third fastest. So Isaac Kush has beaten Sweet Crown 19 to pole. Is that it? I think the track DRS disabled. So yeah. Isaac Kush is evidently your pole position man as the DRS has been disabled. and Isaac Kush is pretty much very clearly going to be on pole for this United States Grand Prix.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to say, I do think that, I guess you could say the top 6, for those who are actually able to get a time in, they're looking pretty comfy, but there's still, if you're the likes of Pube, Lewis, Josh, and Knight, even though DRS hasn't been enabled, you still have this little 4-car battle for the last 4 spots. Well, I guess now with Lewis crossing the line, maybe the last 3 spots.
Oh, it's still the last 4, but I don't. Well, no, did he set that time with some DRS? I'm not sure. I'm not too sure.
So we're looking at I've got the weather report here, and according to the weather report, it's saying that it should be sunny with 0 clouds at all in qualifying 3. So I think the Red Bull's weather radar might need a bit of tweaking between this race and the next race.
Might be a bit off. As Pube, Josh 2, and here Josh 2 coming out of the pit lane in the Ferrari, and Knight are currently not with lap times at the moment, and the track is not going to improve anymore. So really it's a battle between those 3 for their positions. Pube must be absolutely livid to not get a quick time, invalidating on that lap he was out on. But Isaac Kush really stealing pole position in this race as he got the lap time in before everybody else. And, well, he got it faster than Sweetcar 19. It's not by a lot, but it is pole position and should be pole position in the race, given that I don't expect the track to dry up at the end of the session.
Oh yeah, and all of a sudden, because I was riding with Sweetcar 19 on his out lap, and I did notice right going into the last corner, it almost looked like a huge dive bomb from Isaac, just trying to get by as many cars as he could, just trying to get started on that first lap as quick as possible. And honestly, I think that paid a bit of dividends for him. Since he probably got the track as dry as it possibly could, compared to everybody else who's maybe taking a bit more of their time heating up the tires, but kind of losing out on that dry track through every second that was wasted on the out lap.
So going through the order right now, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it still looks like we might see, maybe they're just putting them on for the sake of putting them on. They're not going out yet, but I'm seeing a few drivers at least putting those intermediate tires on. So they might be considering another lap around just now for the sake of doing one. I
don't know, because, well, if nobody's radar is accurate, I guess you can't be too unsure whether or not you aren't going to get rain in the session, but we see a few drivers going out on those intermediates. If it is just going to be a dry race, then I don't really understand this thought process, because never, ever before have I seen drivers who try to take a gamble with their wet tires on a mixed track. I've never seen it work out for them in terms of getting pole position. But we'll have to wait and see.
Neither have I. I think really right now it's just the battle for 8th, I guess, between the probably Pubed and Josh at this point.
Knight's still not out of the pit lane.
And I can say right now, Knight probably won't leave the pit lane anytime soon, I don't think.
Any reason for that?
He's actually not in his seat right now, so that might be. He's out of the cockpit at the current moment.
I think he's decided that we'll get him next time. Josh, so this is interesting actually. Josh 2 is behind Pubed, so they're not too close to each other, but a little tiny bit of slipstream possible for Josh 2 behind the Williams driver here. Is that going to make the difference as we see the two coming around the set lap times? They're both on those inter tires. Interestingly enough, Pubed had a bit of a moment there. So did Josh 2 though as well. So they're both having struggles right now on this clearly now intermediate condition track.
Oh yeah, definitely intermediate. I'm seeing Pube just sliding around this right-hander here.
Oh, but Josh 2 invalidates the time. So now Pube, unless he invalidates in the final, he's not going to even set a lap time at all. I think but maybe that's because he knows that. Josh 2 Josh 2. Maybe Josh 2 thought about it, or maybe he just missed it, but he almost went into the wall. Well, isn't necessarily the most exciting Q3 in my entire life commentating on races, but nonetheless, it's about 5 minutes or more so to go until qualifying, as there is a bit of a countdown between qualifying and the race. The Sector 3 yellow.
It's looking like... Oh, I was just going to say, it's looking like these drivers are doing some laps on the inters. So maybe
is there rain? Is there rain in the beginning, or is this just precautionary practice?
It could be precautionary, I'm thinking, because we've already seen the, as much as the weather report, we like to think that our weather report is accurate here in the game, as we've clearly, as I've clearly seen, it's not 100% accurate 100% of the time. So maybe some of these drivers are just getting some wet reps in just for the sake of a just in case it happens during the race.
Well, you're watching Tier 1, you're watching Q number 3. Thank you so much for joining us. If you aren't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe to ISRL Esports. We are so happy to have reached 200 subscribers, a great milestone for our small but increasingly expanding league. And we hope you can join us. You can join us via our website and apply to be a driver, or if you're just a fan, continue to join us every week as we get set for the Spanish Grand Prix next weekend. Bearing any possible postponement because of the Indianapolis 500, we will let everybody know if there is in fact that case, as we are nearing the end of Q3, and it's Isaac Kush who has taken pole position here in this United States Grand Prix away from Sweet Crown 19. Jer is in third, and it's going to be very interesting, I think, on the start with Jer and Sweet Crown next to each other. Who is going to get ahead of who in the race to start? Are we going to be seeing a little bit harder racing between those two drivers? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. His infamous pillars, he's comfortable with that fourth spot he's got right now. He retires from the session. I'm riding with the likes of Pubed and Josh as they're looking to get their outlaps completed in time to actually put something on the board here for this Q3 session.
I don't think Josh 2 is going to make it.
But yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if Josh will have enough time to make it through.
He's going to try. I think he might. No, he's not. He doesn't make it. And Josh 2 might be kicking himself a little bit because he's clearly now, unless he will just get 9th, as Knight doesn't set a time at all. So Pube doesn't really have to run if he doesn't want to, but he is going to try to get a little bit further up the grid, or just get on the grid with a time at least. I actually want to know, it looks like it's drying a little bit. It doesn't look as wet in some parts of the track. Maybe it's just me, but the drying line looks a little bit bigger than normal.
Yeah, it could be the case that it's letting up at least a little bit. I mean, I don't think we're definitely not in dry territory.
We're not in dry territory, but
I mean, it's getting better, not getting worse. So we might actually see maybe a decent time, but it's hard to say where the times are going to end up on these intermediate tires, because we haven't really seen anybody put up a.
And that's a crash into the wall for ISRL Lewis, who really lost it out of that turn as he was putting the power down on those inter tires. Let's go over the grid order, though, ladies and gentlemen, as qualifying is coming to a close. It's Isaac Kush on pole position, Sweet Crown 19 in second, Jer into the top 3, Infamous Pillars in 4th, Giant rounding off your top 5. Then it goes Carter, Lewis, Pube, Josh 2, and then Knight does make it in the Q3, so won't be entirely unhappy to be P10 in this race. 17 drivers currently in this race. I believe the Giant should be good to go and make it into the race, bearing, of course, with that storm. Hopefully he keeps a good connection. But just about a minute 15 to go. It's really all just waiting game right now, as I wish everybody would just retire, because then it would just end. But
yep, and that actually wraps it up officially. Josh 2 goes into the pits. Pubes sets a 1:44.4.
So about 2 seconds slower than Lewis's time.
Yeah, so now at this point it's just a matter of either everyone retiring or we just wait for the time to expire.
There's only about 40 minutes. Sorry, 40 seconds left to go in the session. I would have been very unhappy to have it be 40
No, I think
minutes.
if it was 40 minutes to go, I think we probably would have probably turned the stream off and tuned back in.
We actually would have just turned the stream off. I would have grabbed the monster out of the kitchen and just had a good time and waited.
Oh, yeah.
But there is not Isaac Kush, even though I'm riding on board of him. It's actually, it's Pubed who's going around track with about 13 seconds left to go. A few drivers out on track. There's Carter, P6 in his home race. Should be pretty happy with that. Pubed and P8 in his home race. The rest of the grid up. I don't know if Infamous Pillars is American or not. I'm not sure about that.
I'm not too sure either, but it looks
we'll see
like
in a second.
we'll find out, but that'll just about do it for the qualifying session here. Now I'm wondering, are we going to see this rain?
He's from England.
Oh, from England, okay.
Yes, so here we go. Final lineup. It's Isaac Kush and Sweetcrow 19 separated by 0.07 of a second. Jared down by about 0.2 of a second to Isaac Kush. Infamous Pillars in 4th. Jediant in 5th, rounding off that top 5. It is underneath him, Carter in 6th, Lewis in 7th, 8th for Lewis, Pubed in 8th. Sorry, 7th for Lewis, Pubed in 8th. Josh in 9th, and ISRL Knight in 10th. That is your top 10 shootout. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the United States Grand Prix in just a few moments' time.
Yep, it's getting very close to starting up here. We will have a formation lap before that, but now as we're going to load in, are we going to see any surprise weather events? Or is it just going to be, well, it's cloudy.
It's cloudy skies, but it is dry. But here's the thing, there is no free choice of tire because the time set in Q2, we're going to decide those tires. So we do not have any free tire choices unless you're outside of the top 10. But those top 10 runners are going to do whatever tire they were on before, which is the unfortunate reality. I am seeing the hands phase through the glass up top. It's looking a little freaky, but nonetheless, we're getting set for action very soon. Cloudy skies here at Austin, Texas.
Yep, and it looks like it's going to be clearing up a little bit as the race goes on, from what I can see with the weather report. As we might start seeing the sun show its face as the race goes on.
And it's 15 seconds until session start for the United States Grand Prix. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is ISRL. My name is ISRL X, and I am joined in the commentary booth by Fallen Monkeys, and we are going to bring you action in Tier 1 as the formation lap is about to begin. I'll go over your starting lineup one more time. And here we go. It's Isaac Kush on pole position for the first time in Season 3, and it's Sweetcrow 19 in 2nd. Jer is behind him in 3rd. Should get interesting at the start. Infamous Pillars sitting down in 4th, but a pretty good position for the Haas driver, looking to get the home team a win here. Synchro got a win in Tier 2 for Haas, actually, surprisingly enough, as Jediant is in 5th. It's ISRL Carter in his home race in 6th, followed by Lewis in 7th. Pubed, his home race in 8th, and Josh 2 in 9th. Rounding off your top 10 is ISRL Knight. Jamian in 11th, Extra Rotation in 12th, VR in 13th, Sophion in 14th, Chris in 15th, 16th for Gurman, and Stunik in 17th.
Yep, and I'm looking at of course, we've got the top 10 all on the soft tires, given that's what they set their Q2 times on. And I'm just looking at the tire choices for the bottom portion of the grid. Jamie and Chris, they both elected the soft tires. VR46, he decided he wanted to start on the hard tires. So a bit of a different strategy from everybody else. And Extra Rotation, Sophion, Gurman, and Stunik, they all opted for the medium tires. I'm looking at I got the pit stop strategy here for those starting on the softs. So it's saying either a soft medium or a soft medium, depending on if you want to do a 1-stop or a 2-stop. That's in theory. We'll see what happens in practice.
as it's going to be 28 laps around the Circuit of the Americas. And let's get set for action in just a few moments. The formation lap about to end here. And just a little bit of feedback coming. If you could tell your good man in the Red Bull to be a little bit more quiet. As we get set for action here, ladies and gentlemen. Isaac Kush on pole position. Sweet Crown 19 on the front row of the grid. Jer in third. And Infamous Pillars is in fourth. Let's get set. 5 lights coming on in just a few moments.
Yep, and once we're all lined up, I'll let you take the lead for to take us through the 5 red lights and the opening laps.
And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Getting ready for 1 light, 2 lights, 3, 4, 5. And the lights are out, and away we go. And Isaac Kush doesn't get a great start. Sweet Car 19 already side by side with him. Going on the inside in the turn number 1. And around the outside is Jer. And Sweet Crown 19 takes the lead in the United States Grand Prix. Jer down in third. ISRL Carter is in fourth position in the Mercedes. A great start by him. And it's Isaac Kush chasing down Sweet Crown 19, who has taken the lead early on in this race. Infamous Pillars down a position. I think actually just down 1 position. But ISRL Carter getting a good start, sitting in fourth behind Jer, championship challenger for Sweet Crown 19. And it's Infamous Pillar sitting down in fifth, might be looking to make a move on the inside towards the DRS detection zone, which will start on lap number 3, but it's going to be starting, but the slipstream will at least start now, as here we go.
Jamie actually, sorry to butt in on that, but Jamie actually spun after the end of the first sector there, so he's all the way down in last, falling 6 spots.
And here we go, Knight has made up some positions, already 6th on the grid, was looking for a move on Infamous Pillars, but ultimately decided against it, as Lewis in 7th position, Pube stays in 8th in the Williams, but will be looking to make up some positions. Gurman is having a battle, the 2 Renaults are having a battle, phasing through each other, and that is Jedian's connection, I think, a little bit going a little haywire, as Jamie, as you're right, down way behind everybody else, 4 seconds back, has had issues early on in this Grand Prix, but we're about to begin lap number 2, and it's Sweet Car 19 in the lead. He goes fastest on track. Isaac Kush behind him as we begin lap number 2.
Yep, and I do think that, I do think that Jedian did have connection issues right from the get-go here of the race, because I was watching some cars ghosting through. As you'll have to bear with me with my timing, which
I'm not even looking at it right. I'm not even looking at it right now. We're just going to look at the track right now, as it is starting to update again. As Sweet Car 19 is your leader in this United States Grand Prix. Isaac Kush behind, and Jer is in third. Carter has had a great start, up to 4th. Would love to get a podium here in his home Grand Prix, but he's got to deal with Infamous Pillars behind him as well. Knight is closing in as well, but he's got a train of cars behind him too, and nobody is out of the woodworks. And look at this, Lewis making a challenge on the outside, would be in this turn, going to be on the outside coming into the turn, looking to make a move. On the inside is Knight, side by side still, and it's Lewis who gets better traction out of the turn, and he's going to take 6th position away, and now Pube is trying to challenge on the inside for the Red Bull in a nice dive bomb location, but Pube actually decides to take the outside line and ultimately stay behind the Red Bull driver.
Yep, and Pube's going to have to watch out, because Josh, too, is right up behind him, only 2/10 behind, so if Pube's not careful, he could just as easily lose that 8th spot to the likes of Josh, who is probably just buying his time, waiting for the opportunity to get the move done.
And there is the front wing look as DRS is enabled. Knight chasing down the McLaren of Lewis. There's Pubed behind, getting right up to the rear diffuser, looking to make a move on the Red Bull driver, possibly on this lap now with DRS. A little bit closer to Knight than Knight is to Lewis, as Lewis actually starting to pull away a little bit. Who is, I believe, on the soft tires. In fact, let's get up that detail, who is on what, and it's the top 9 on the softs. Then we got 2 medium runners. The only runner on the hards is VR.
Wide. Carter actually just went wide in that Mercedes car, leaving the end of the S section on turn 1, which actually gave Infamous Pillars a very easy promotion up into 4th. So a bit of a mistake by Carter, but hopefully he can rebound and keep up with Infamous to get that position back as the race goes on.
Jer is in third behind Isaac Kush and catching up to him, as Isaac Kush actually dropping back a little bit from Sweet Crown, but still keeping relatively close. Pube not able to make a move on the Red Bull driver.
And Jer actually set a purple second sector, so Jer definitely feeling the pace early on. I think he's just stuck behind Izat and just hasn't been able to get enough traction to get the move done in the straightaways.
So pretty clean so far, though. No damage for anybody, so no early pit stops. Though we might see Jamie, and actually no, Jamie is in 15th, so we got ahead of Estunik and Jedian, as Sweet Crown again goes fastest on track with a 134.5. So continuing to go faster and faster in this race, about 7/10 ahead of Izat. Izat struggling to keep up. Jer behind him. It might get touchy between those two soon, as they'll come onto that DRS straight. We got to look with Pube, though, who is sitting about 5/10 back from Knight, who is out of DRS detection range from Lewis, about 1.1 seconds separating those two drivers. Knight needs to get a little bit closer on this lap to avoid being in the DRS suck, as they would say, of Pubed, but I don't think he's going to get close enough. Just about a second separating them, and no, he is not going to make it as they reach that DRS detection zone. Knight out of a side of a second, and Pubed is going to be right on his tail. I'm sure he'll have overtake activated. Let's get the telemetry up, and there's the overtake. There's the DRS. Should be an easy pass for Pubed in the Williams. Just going to fly by past ISRL Knight up into 7th position, and now he's got to deal with Josh 2 behind him. As we are in lap number 4, and look at that, Izat Kush is getting super pressured by Jer in 3rd position. A little bit better pace right now on those soft compound tires. Jer in 3rd position, looking to get ahead of the McLaren driver. You're watching the United States Grand Prix here in ISRL Esports, lap number 4 of 28, and it's cloudy conditions, but it is dry conditions here in the race. So the track temp's probably a little bit lower than they would like. The grip going to be a little bit lower, as DRS is still activated for Kush, not completely outside of that range just yet, and that is what's helping him stay in 2nd position, but he has dropped it in. He was in 1st because of that pole position, but has dropped the 1st position to Sweet Crown 19, and we'll have to wait and see if Jer can make it towards a challenge for Sweet Crown 19, as Knight gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings.
Yeah, and I've been watching Jer and Izat battle it out, and I do have to say Izat Kush is doing a good job getting the traction where he needs it. The DRS that he's getting from Sweet Crown 19 is definitely helping as well to keep Jer ahead of to keep Jer behind him. Sorry, but I'm sure Sweet Crown is sitting in 1st. He's probably really happy that Jer is struggling to get by. So as much as he's not creating a gap like we're used to seeing, he's probably more comfortable with Izat behind him than he is with Jer behind him. A little bit of
a drag race down the straight as VR and Jamie about to go side by side, and it's Jamie on the inside. A switchback from the Renault driver, who is trying to make a switchback, a little jittery with the connection, but Jamie has made the overtake on VR, and the two Renault drivers are having connection problems right now, and that has dropped them to 15th and 17th respectively in this race.
Oh yeah, and I know Jamie won after the mistake he had earlier on lap 1. He's really gonna want to get a move on to try to work his way back up the grid, and hopefully get a decent amount of points. Like, he is getting points now, but I'm sure he's probably hoping to get a lot more. But hang on, Josh and Knight are going side by side into the 1st turn. It looks like Josh just barely getting the better of Knight, but actually no, as I say that, Knight not giving up without a fight. There's a bit of contact there, but it looks like Knight is able to hold on to that
big slide.
Just barely.
Look at that slide from Knight out of the S section, and Josh, too, is putting the pressure on him. And that is a pretty titanic battle. Pube gets a 3-second time penalty, his 1st of the race. Extra rotation as well, as the penalties starting to pile on in this race. Looking on board of Lewis right now, Carter is under pressure because there is no DRS for the Mercedes driver. The McLaren driver in the slipstreams got overtake, got DRS. Can he get close enough to Carter to make a move? I expect to see possibly a big dive bomb into the turn here. Ooh, very, very close. Gonna keep it on the inside. Who gets better traction out of the turn? It's gonna be Carter who gets better traction and will keep ahead for the moment's time.
Yeah, Carter got the better traction. I think Lewis just had a little bit of a tank slapper going out of the exit there, which gave Carter just enough traction to keep that fifth.
Gurman spun around.
Oh, Gurman spun. I was just about to say what happened as I was seeing him fall down. He spun around, did a bit of a donut on track. Thankfully, it could have been a lot worse for him, but he's gonna have a bit more time to make back now. Currently in 15th.
And I want to also mention Knight has gotten behind Josh now, as Josh did make the move on the DRS straight. Jamian now gets ahead of Chris, who takes the pit stop. So does Gurman, who takes the pit stop. They're on one of them's on medium tires.
Yep, and I do think, especially for the top 10, the soft tires might start falling off sooner rather than later.
And Chris comes out of the pit lane with new medium tires. 3 seconds for Infamous Pillars.
Yep, and I'm looking at the battle for the lead now with the top three, and I mean, there's not much in terms of movement and battling, but at least it's good to say that they're all staying within a second of one another. So there's a bit of a stalemate, but at least the likes of Sweet Crown isn't running away with it, or nobody's really kind of falling behind here with with this top three. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen come the pit stops for them when the strategy starts playing a bit more into effect.
But JR is getting very, very close to the back of Izat, and you get the feeling that an overtake is coming soon. But Izat is no slump. He will challenge you in a battle, and he is doing well to keep JR behind him. And in terms of pit stops, since they're so close to each other, it's imperative, in fact, that you do get ahead of one another, as it's going to help you in the pit stops, especially. But now a few drivers in the pits, Pube and Knight, take pit stops. That's going to put extra rotation in the P8. Josh 2 up a place as well. Lewis is still chasing down Carter, who is out of DRS detection range from Infamous Pillars, just about. But Lewis, even with DRS and overtake, has not been able to make a move on Carter. And a little bit of a moment in the S's there, almost lost the car. But Carter seemingly also not being very well through the S section here at the Circuit of the Americas, and is struggling in P5 right now. 1.5 seconds back from Infamous Pillars. No DRS at this point, as Lewis looked on the inside there, but is going to wait for this DRS zone. It's got the overtake out of the exit.
Sorry, I don't mean to butt in, but Jer finally got the move done on Izat, as Izat Kush was just taken out of the DRS zone. I think Sweetcar 19 finally created the gap.
And it's a move on the inside by Lewis on Carter, and he's going to try to make the move. Who's going to get better traction? Again, Carter gets better traction out of the turn, and Carter will keep 5th position for the moment. Lewis just not able to make a dive on the inside here now, and Lewis giving little room as Carter goes off track, and they're going to go side by side through here as Carter is going to get back ahead, and then Lewis now on the inside. And is he still side by side of Carter? Yes, he is. Now a switchback again. Lewis unstable out of the exit, and it's going to be Carter who dives into the pits, and Lewis will stay on track.
What a nice little battle we had there. Two very skilled drivers, each showing each other some respect, but not really giving anybody else, not really giving the other much of a room.
And it's hard tires for Carter. So that's going to be a one-stop strategy from Carter. He wants to make it until the end. Should make it until the end, as there's going to be about 20 laps with those tires. He should be okay to go till the end. We'll have to wait and see if that pays off for him in this race. Currently P12 as he comes out of the pit lane.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's doable. And I'm noticing Sukar 19 is starting to get a little bit of a gap made through the likes of Jer. I mean, Jer's still keeping him honest, but it looks like the gap is right around a second. So let's see. Yeah, nope. Jer did not get any DRS this time around on the Sukar 19. So we might need to wait another lap or two before we can truly see the two juggernauts battling it out.
Now, he's
for
still
the
caught
lead
up
of the
to him.
race.
He's still caught up to
yeah.
him on the straight. I think he had overtake activated possibly. So it's not like total loss, and he should get it coming up to this very next DRS straight unless he spins or something. But look at this. Pubed and VR having a battle right now as Pubed gets ahead of VR and up to P10. So Pubed has been making up some progress after going down a few positions with the pit stop. As Jer about 0.6 back from Sweet Crown 19's. DRS will be activated this time and has overtake activated for a moment there. Catching up to Sweet Crown 19 coming into turn 1, and I think it's going to get interesting here coming up towards lap number 10, as we are on lap number 10, and Jer, as long as he can stay close to Sweet Crown in this S section, I think we might see a pass possibly for the lead.
Yep, and out of the top three, Isaac Kush was the first of the big three to fall in terms of pit stop. So he went on to the medium tires, and it looks like he came out in 7th. So he's going to have to work his way back up now, maybe make a few passes, but we'll see what that means for the likes of Sweet Crown 19 and Jer, who opted to stay out for at least another lap.
And here we go on the DRS straight. It's got overtake activated for a second there out of the exit. DRS activated behind Sweet Crown 19, much closer than Isaac Ibergot. Does he make a move on Sweet Crown, or does he stay patient? And he does, in fact, stay patient. This is what I hate about these Tier 1 drivers. So boring it is. They just stay behind each other. It's too much respect. Come on, let's get some action going on out on track. As a big lockup there from Sweet Crown 19.
Oh, yeah, and I think Jer, he had a bit of a think about it, but wisely thought better of it, just because I don't think they want to end up like they did last week. As much as we got this wonderful heated rivalry, I'd like to see them battle for another 18 laps.
They follow each other into the pits. The pits goes both of them.
Sort of what I expected to happen. I figured once Sweet Crown 19 went into the pits, Jer would be right up behind him.
The big question.
I was half expecting Sweet Crown to have a bit of a fake or whatnot.
The big question is Isaac. Where does he get up?
Yep, and we'll find out now as even the likes of Infamous Pillars goes into the pits as well. Oh, Jer actually got held up, I think, by traffic in the pit stop.
And coming out of the pit lane, Sweet Crown 19 is going to keep ahead. So is Jer ahead of Isaac. So a big blunder for Isaac. He was not able to get in back to his position, and he is down in 6th place and has lost the possible lead for the race again. And now Jer's got newer medium tires on.
Yeah, the undercut didn't work for Izat, unfortunately.
Ooh, Sweet Crown 19's getting held up a little bit from Jamie.
Yep, and for those of you that have been around ISRL for a while will know that Sweet Crown and Jamie 1, they've had a bit of a rivalry dating back to the initial seasons of ISRL, but it looks like this time around Sweet Crown 19 just has the better pace and very easily walks by Jamie 1, and even Jer also
Isaac makes a big dive bomb on
Isaac.
Jamie, and the three of them dispose of Jamie and very, very quickly and keep moving on. But Jer is keeping pressure on Sweet Crown 19, and now you'll start to see the gloves come off. Now the battle may commence now between these two.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'm looking at Jamie 1. He's on 10-lap-old soft tires, so I think that probably says all it needs to say about why the pace wasn't quite there for him.
Jer has a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, so that's interesting.
Oh, look at that. We'll see how that affects. And yeah, there we go.
Jamie
1 going into the pits.
Jamie into the pits. DRS activated for the AlphaTauri driver as they head into turn 1. And Sweet Crown 19 might be a sitting duck coming up to this long DRS straight in Sector 2. We'll have to wait and see if he can keep ahead. Now, he's got a Ferrari ahead of him. I believe, yep, that is Sophion in second position. Extra rotation for a few moments will keep this lead of the United States Grand Prix, and he'll just be happy to be in the top step for the time being. But it is going to be a bit of a loss at some point. He does still have to make a pit stop. Isaac Kush has a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Jer has dropped back from Sweet Crown, and Sweet Crown has caught up to Sophion, so he'll have DRS. Jer won't. Jer does not have DRS. Jer has not caught up with Sweet Crown, and now he's going to have a problem because now Sweet Crown gets DRS and Jer does not, and this is the kind of stuff you have to be careful with. If you are going to keep up with your rivals, you need to stay with them, because now he's lost DRS, and now Sweet Crown gets that, and now a big gap might start to form.
And that's the thing, and now Jer is going to have to maybe put a little bit less focus on the likes of Sweet Crown 19, and put a bit more focus on what's in his rearview mirrors now with the likes of Izat, who's doing a very good job of staying within that 1 second golden mark, because Izat actually did get DRS on Jer over the course of that last back straight, and he's doing a good job of just staying within the fight, and Jer, while he's being held up by Sophion quite a bit, I think, but it looks like Jer's finally going to be able to get past and maybe try to make up a bit of time to get back up with Sweet Crown 19.
1.2 seconds is separating those two drivers, so really it's going to be all down the pace right now if he can get back into DRS range, which he desperately needs to make a challenge for first position, or else this is going to be another Sweet Crown machine down to the wire, because you know Sweet Crown's got extremely good race pace and can make a race be shut down very, very quickly if you do not keep pressure on him, as Izat is challenging Sophion very heavily right now in that McLaren.
Yeah, so I'll have to see if Izat can actually get a move done on this back straight, as
he is going to go side by side of him.
Yeah.
Should make a move pretty easily. Yes, he does. Sophion doesn't even try to challenge. Now, I want to talk about Pubed here, who is coming into the mix now. He's got soft tires, so he decided to go for a two-stop, and he's going to have a lot of pace against his rivals here. And Carter is making a move on VR, and VR, again, jittering on track right there, so the connection is not great for the Renault drivers, but still sitting in P9 at the moment.
Yeah, and VR took a bit of a tough line out of the exit there, and that actually allowed Lewis to close the gap right up to him. Now VR still can go for a while. His hard tires are only 12 laps old, but Lewis still looks like he has a bit more pace on the fresher set of hards. Pubed actually just gets by Sophion on the start-finish straight as well. So I think Sophion is really starting to feel the wear on those medium tires, since they have been going for 13 laps, and it seems like everybody else has kind of been picking them off left, right, and center here.
As Josh 2 is making a move on Gurman. Gurman makes the switch back, goes side by side. They're side by side, soft versus hard tire. I kind of expect where this is going to go, but actually it's Gurman who is currently on the back foot. Now, I don't know if Gurman's on old soft tires. In fact, I think they are, because they are 6 laps old, so they're not too old though. So surprisingly enough, Gurman is not able to keep up with Josh 2 on those hard tires. They are new hard tires, but they're still hard tires nonetheless. And and Lewis barges VR. There was contact on my screen between VR and Lewis. Lewis made contact. VR kind of pushed him off track a little bit. We're going to see now is there's a big connection issue going here for VR, but he's going to make a move, trying to make a move on the inside. And on my screen, they're making contact. Lewis does, in fact, go off track, comes back on track, gets a 3-second time penalty for it. He will not be happy with that, as it is contact with VR, and a lot of this may be connection. As VR is getting close and now actually goes through Lewis there. So Lewis has a 3-second time penalty, maybe not up to him.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what's going on with that. The stewards might actually take a look at that, depending on the outcome of the race. Just depending on the incident. I kind of caught it right at the end, so I can't really give too much of an input, at least initially. So I've been trying to keep an eye on the Jer Sweet Crown battle, because Jer's actually closed the gap right back up to about half a second now on Sweet Crown 19. Now that they both got past the likes of Sophion, who were
Sweet Crown's got rotation ahead of him, and that's going to help him again if he can get within DRS range. But I don't think he's going to do it on this lap. No, he will not. So now does Jer get to make a challenge on Sweet Crown 19 as they come onto the DRS straight. A little ERS out of the exit, and DRS activated. He's now coming down the straight with DRS. I think he's going to be a little bit too far back from Sweet Crown to make a move. Sweet Crown will keep second position, net first position in this race.
Yeah, it appears as though Sweet Crown 19 just has a little bit too much straight line speed for Jared to keep up, even with the DRS. So unless Jared is looking to use some more overtake than what he has been,
To be fair,
he might just be idling for now. Go on ahead.
To be fair, that extra rotation was ahead of him by about a second, so by only about a second.
Okay.
So he did have some slipstream with him, so that was going to help him just a bit. And he is now going to have DRS coming down the straight. So will Jer, though. So we'll have to wait and see. Can extra rotation be dispatched of on this straight? I don't believe they will. They're usually not an overtaking position with the DRS, but we'll have to wait and see. As they don't make the move just yet, as they'd like to get ahead of rotation coming onto that straight, both Jer and Sweet Crown 19.
Oh yeah. Now, just from what I can see, just on the onboard with Jer, it does look like Sweet Crown just has a little bit of a better traction on the exit compared to Jer. So as much as Jer is really closing up going into the corners, Sweet Crown 19 is just recreating a bit of a gap on the exits. Maybe with the help of extra rotation there a little bit. Now, looks like he is going to have DRS. Sweet Crown will on extra rotation going down this back straight here. So we'll see if he can make the most of it, or if extra rotation is going to be able to hold on to that first place.
He's still going to battle with it. He takes the inside line, so that's a defensive move for the lead. Now, Sweet Crown, I think, might not be too happy with this, as now Jer is going to try to dispatch of him. But Jer has to battle with extra rotation. They make a little bit of contact, and I got to be telling you, I'm not agreeing with this move by extra. Clearly, if you can look on the medium tires, they are shot right now. There's a lot of grain on them. I'm not a huge fan of that kind of move. That's not your battle to battle with. I'm not a huge fan of that kind of behavior from extra. It's not against the rules. It's just a little bit unsportsmanlike. And there he goes into the pits. So does that, in your opinion, Fallen, does that make any sense to battle with those two, knowing you're probably going to have to make a pit stop anyway?
Not necessarily, at least in my thought. But at the same time, it's not like it's a blue flag.
It's not a blue flag. It's more of a respectful situation.
And that's where it's a bit of a depends on the mindset too, because it's easy to say in the commentator's booth that he should let him go, but I've even caught myself in races where I have no reason to battle, but here I am still trying to battle.
Right, but
so it's hard to kind of turn off that mindset when you're in the actual when you're in the cockpit and actually doing the race.
Well, nonetheless, Sweet Crown 19 in first position, Jer in second.
Yep, and that's the way it's going to stay.
DRS activated. Gets close to Sweet Crown 19, but ultimately he's probably going to be behind him still. No big dive bombs from the AlphaTauri driver. A little bit of a lockup from Sweet Crown 19, though.
Yeah, and we'll see Jer. The gap is very, very close, so hopefully it's only a matter of time before we really see, these two drivers battling it out for position. As looks like extra rotation just made a move on Knight going down the back straight too just there.
So I want to say this now. Do you expect them to make pit stops again? Being that they chose the medium tires, do you think they can make it till the end? Because I'm thinking if I'm ISAT, I would have taken the hard tire with the possibility these two do make the pit stop. Try to make that one stop. That almost forces Jer and Sweet Crown into a one stop where their tires may not make it that far.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at the tire info now, and it does look like we saw Sophion just took his medium tires 17 laps. We watched extra rotation, take his medium tires about 15, 16 laps, and there's only 10 laps to go in the race. So it's not. I do think it's fully possible for Jer and Sweet Crown to take those medium tires to the end. But now it's just a matter of, will the pace fall off enough for anybody else?
Here we go. Sweet Crown is going to be major pressure right now with only 4/10 separating them. Jer should make an easy move on Sweet Crown. I don't think Sweet Crown's even going to try to challenge for this. He will actually take the inside line, so that is the defensive move, but it's not going to matter. An easy move for Jer, and he takes the lead of the Grand Prix. But he does have penalties, about 6 seconds. Sweet Crown 19 is clean in this race right now.
Yep, so we'll see if that'll play into effect. But now, if you're Jared, now that you finally made the move, you're just going to want to really get your head down and just try to build that gap as much as you possibly can. Because, like you said, those penalties will still play into effect by the end of the race. But albeit, building a gap to Sweet Crown 19 is a lot easier said than done.
I think Knight spun.
Oh, I think that's no. I think that was a Stunek that had a bit of a struggle in the S section there. On the 17 lap.
Oh, he's got a puncture.
Tires.
I think he has a puncture.
Well, there we go. That's those tires are 17 laps old, and he got the puncture.
There's it's a rear puncture. Yeah, it is. Look at that. You can see the tire vibrating, and as Stunek has a puncture on lap number 19, the rear tire flapping about, and he's got to make it into the pits as soon as possible.
Yeah, that actually kind of goes back to what we were talking about in terms of can these medium tires go to the end. I think that just tells me that it's going to be a lot closer than what I initially thought, given that Stunek got the puncture on lap 17, and Jer and Sweet Crown are going to have to take those tires 16 laps in total.
And Sweet Crown 19 is not being able to keep up with the same kind of pressure that Jer put on him, and he gets close to him, but no cigar. Isaac Kush a little bit further back, not able to make a challenge on the top two drivers, Sweet Crown 19 and Jer. Isaac on the podium right now, though, in this race. Sweet Crown in second position, Jer in first. Jer with the lead, 6/10 ahead. Extra rotation has made the move on Carter. Gurman has a 3-second time penalty. And look at this, side by side, Pube and Knight. Look at that. And Pube just barges his way through the Red Bull driver, saying thank you very much, and he is moving on to better places in P8.
Yeah, but the much fresher medium tires, it looks like, from Pube made that move a little bit easy.
And that's a 5-second penalty. I think there's a bit of I don't care coming from a Stunek because of that flat, which has pretty much ended his race. And now he's going to go on to the soft tires till the end with a new, so he has front wing damage as well. So that's going to make an even slower pit stop, and he's going to be well behind Jedian out of the pit lane.
Yep, extra rotation actually just completely sent it, due to lack of a better term, down the inside of Lewis, but sent it a little bit too hard as he went wide, which let Lewis pull off a pretty easy switchback to keep that spot. But it's just another battle to keep an eye out, especially with Carter still within a second of them, trying to keep up with these two in this battle for fifth. Now, actually, Sweet Crown 19 got very close to Jer again on that back straight, but just was not able to get the move done once again.
Here comes extra rotation now in DRS range, 0.3 of a second separating him and the McLaren driver. And this time his move doesn't have to be such of a dive bomb, as he's going to go into the braking zone side by side with Lewis, gets the move done, switch back for Lewis, but not the traction for Lewis, and it's extra rotation up in the P5, but no, a big lock up there, and Lewis almost makes a move on the inside there, or sorry, around the outside, and this time extra rotation definitively gets himself in the P5. And Isaac Kush has made the pit stop. So does that mean Sweet Crown 19 and Jer react? Because Kush doesn't believe he's going to make it till the end. Soft tires go on for Kush. Does Sweet Crown 19 and Jer, do they push it, or is it time to get off these tires knowing there was a puncture from Stunek?
It's hard to say, because now there's still a bit of a nearly a 14-second gap that's been created.
And side by side with his teammate out of the pit lane, and Lewis is going to battle with Isaac Kush. Carter is now getting involved as well, and Isaac just gets ahead of Lewis finally coming out of the pit lane. That was not the kind of battle he wanted to have coming out there. And now Infamous Pillars, 14 seconds back, is on the podium with medium tires.
Yeah, but without, if he's not too careful, extra rotation, it is a 4.5-second gap, but it's, at the same time, it's only a 4.5-second gap. So as long as he can hold off the likes of Izat on those fresh softs, and even Lewis and Carter, we're still looking to, looking to keep up with them.
And Jamie, and he's lost some positions, and he's into the wall with front wing damage.
That's the wing damage for him.
And this has gone bad for worse for Jamie in a really pitiful race for him, just constantly on the back foot, and he's going to have to make another pit stop in this race. Now, these top two do not make pit stops, so they have not reacted to Isat making that pit stop. Now, will Infamous make a pit stop, about 3.7 seconds separating Kush and Pillars. Lap 22 at 28. I think it's a bit too late now, unless these tires are really going to go off the cliff, which there's not a lot of grain on those front tires for Jer nor Sweet Crown 19, so I'm not expecting him to make pit stops.
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't think so either. I think they'll just be able to make it to the end. So as long as they don't just, out-battle themselves too hard. Because if you're Sweet Crown 19, you know that you don't need to pass Jer on track because of the penalties, right? So as long as Sweet Crown 19 can just keep the gap to pretty much where it is now, he should be. I'd like to think he should be okay. So as long as there's no other penalties we're not aware of.
And Sweet Crown in DRS range again. This time, maybe a little bit of a bigger challenge. He's going to make a move possibly on the inside. No, he decides against it. And I got to be honest here. I know there's penalties, but make it a little exciting, guys. That was clearly a possible overtaking opportunity, but Sweet Crown just decided against it.
Yep, and who is...
I think that's one of the Renaults. That's a Jedian.
Oh, okay.
Gurman.
Looked like it was Gurman going a little bit slow out of the... Oh, no, I think... No, okay, it wasn't going out of the pits. I think Gurman had a bit of an incident, or a bit of a mistake, I should say, into the first turn, because he's actually missing an end plate on his front wing, and I saw he was going a little bit slowly there. So I think he might have put a bit too much gas on the car on the exit of the first turn, and maybe clipped the wall. Looking, Isat set the fastest lap for a 1:32.7.
He's caught very upwards with Pillars, so he's going to want to get ahead of him quickly.
Yeah, we'll see, because there's still lots of time to make up before he can catch up to the likes of Sweet Crown and Jer. But it's still crazy to see the pace he has on those fresh soft tires.
Sweet Crown 19 is back in the slipstream, gonna have DRS, but if we know so far, there hasn't really been any challenge for the lead of the race. Sweet Crown 19, even last lap, clearly could have made the overtake a possibility and just decided against it. So, does not want to battle with Jer. Has there been a loss of respect between these two that battle side by side, or is he actually scared that maybe Jer might do something and cost him a possible podium in this race?
Could be a bit of both. It could just be, the aspect of the penalties as well that Sweet Crown's thinking. It could also just be maybe knowing that Astunik had a puncture on lap 17 and they need to take these tires 16 laps. It could just be a matter of conserving the tires to make sure that they can make it to the end as well. It's hard to say what's going through the drivers' minds. Either way, I'd love to see a true all-out battle between the likes of Sweet Crown and Jer, but I guess it's up to them what they want to do. But I'm looking at looks like Josh too was able to get past Knight, because they were having a nice little battle for the last few laps, a little reminiscent of what had happened. I believe it was either last week or 2 weeks ago when they had battled for probably a good 12 laps until the end of the race. So no love lost between those two drivers here on the Circuit of the Americas either.
And coming onto this DRS straight again, DRS flap is going to open. Sweet Crown actually a little bit further back than he has been on previous laps, as he's starting to back off a little bit, as those tires definitely starting to show the grain that we saw on a few other of the medium runners. So the tires starting to get into their final legs right now. Another big lockup from Sweet Crown. Sweet Crown does lock up a lot. Is that going to hurt him and his possible tire life? The last thing he wants is a puncture in this race. Extra rotation goes on the inside of Pillars up in the P4.
Oh,
goes
but extra
too
rotation
wide.
Goes wide, and that actually gives Pillars, I believe, the position right back.
No,
elsewhere.
No, he keeps it.
No, he
rotation
keeps it.
keeps it.
Oh, I saw the move, but actually it was just right behind them, which is Pubed and Carter. They were battling it out, and Pubed actually was able to make a move as I just missed it. I think it happened going down the back straight there. But Pubed up into 6th now, as Carter, unfortunately for him, moves down to 7th for the time being.
Lap 25 of 28. So about 3 laps to go in the race, or well, 4 laps to go in the race, including this one. As Sweet Crown getting close to Jer in the first sector, but then, oh, Estunik has been disqualified from the session for multiple penalties. And Estunik's race is over. Too many corner cuts, too many other penalties, and Estunik is out and will roll off the side of the track, and that shouldn't cause a safety car, I don't believe. But that is it for Estunik in his reserve race for Tier 1.
Yep, and unfortunately for Estunik,
here comes Sweet Crown 19 on the inside into the turn, and the two championship rivals are going to go side by side. A little bit of contact, and then Jer gets better traction out of the turn. This is the side-by-side battle we finally wanted to see, and it finally happens. But Jer keeps the lead of the Grand Prix ahead of Sweet Crown 19 for the moment.
Oh yeah, finally we're starting to see a little bit of a battle between these two drivers. I think they're both maybe being a little bit cautious given last week, but still no. You know, I'm still sure they're probably going to be battling it out as hard as they can for these last 2-3 laps. Especially since it's nice to make the move on the track and not have to rely on the penalties sorting it out afterwards. But I think Sweet Crown 19, maybe he was just keeping the tire life to try to get the move done here on these last few laps, just so that way he can just get the move done, be on his way, and not have to defend for longer than he has to.
Both tires showing sign of grain. Will they make it till the end of the race? Estunik had that puncture. I'm not too sure what caused it, but I'd have to assume it was tire life. As Sweet Crown 19 right on the back of Jer, and Jer is going to be possibly just a sitting duck right now in this DRS straight. Here we go. DRS will be activated. Jer is going to be a sitting duck, and he is going to lose this position very easily down the DRS straight. Sweet Crown 19 is going to take the lead of the United States Grand Prix, and Jer will do nothing as he is too far back at the end of it to make a challenge. As Sweet Crown again locks up. Another lock up there. Is he pushing it too hard? We only have 3 more laps to go. We got to be wary. A big lockup for him there, as he is really trying to brake as late as possible, but that has to be wearing down those tires. I'd be curious to hear what the tire life is for Sweet Crown 19 at the end of it.
I'm actually a little curious myself now, given all those lockups and whatnot. Probably lots of flat spots, lots of wear on the tires. As I'm watching Lewis just make a move down the inside of VR46 for 11th, just elsewhere on the track. But yeah, I'm curious to see if Sweet Crown 19's tires. Curious about what the wear is. If he's actually gonna be able to make it to the end now, given all of these lockups that he's had on the tires so far.
But this is where Sweet Crown has the advantage. That S section, Jer just lost 3, maybe 2 or 3 tenths of a second. Knight gets a 3-second time penalty. Jer following behind Sweet Crown 19, but almost drops out of DRS as he has a terrible run through the first sector. And then that's really where the grip advantage may be for Sweet Crown. Oh, but Jer does catch up close, about half a second separating them. DRS activated. Does he make a challenge on Sweet Crown 19, the penultimate lap of the United States Grand Prix, coming down that DRS straight? It's too far back, even with DRS, barely makes a dent in that gap between the two.
Yep, just a little bit too far back for Jer, and I know Sweet Crown 19, he was conserving the ERS. I'm sure he was probably conserving some fuel as well. And this is the time to use it now in these last 2 laps in order to defend the first that he spent almost the entire race trying to plan ever since Jer got past him.
Jer's got a little bit more overtake though than Sweet Crown.
Oh, that's true. He might be saving it for the last lap. It's gonna have to be now or never if you're for the likes of Jer, just because, well, It's the last lap.
Here we go. Final lap. Jer behind Sweet Crown 19. Penalties will decide this race. That we know very much so. But we got to deal with the battle nonetheless. Jer will definitely want to make a challenge to Sweet Crown. Definitely wants to win on track. That's the confidence boosters that give you in a championship. Does Jer keep up much closer with Sweet Crown this time in Sector 1? He does definitely do so. And despite the ERS advantage, another 3-second time penalty for Jer. He's nowhere near disqualification like Estunik, his teammate. But here we go. Down the DRS straight. Jer's not going to care. I think Sweet Crown even going on the inside lane. Does he want to give Jer the position? He might want to do just that. I think he doesn't want to have this kind of battle.
Yeah, and we'll see now going down the straight. Jer
there is overtake activated.
Yep, Sweet Crown's using his as well, so it's going to be very close between these two.
Side by side.
Yeah.
Switch back for Sweet Crown 19. Final lap battle between these two. Sweet Crown 19 not able to get the move, though. And then Jer is going to take the lead of the United States Grand Prix. A move on the inside, but not enough. And Jer on the final lap is going to take it. But Sweet Crown 19 has driven the more clean race on penalties alone. And coming around the final few turns, he is going to win the United States Grand Prix. And it's another notch for Sweet Crown 19, and he will increase his lead further in the championship ahead of Jer. Across the line, Sweet Crown 19 wins the United States Grand Prix. Isaac Kush will come across the line, and he will finish in P3. Does extra rotation. Pube gets a last lap penalty. And no, extra rotation finishes in 4th.
VR, because they're battling it out here on the last lap, very close to one another. I think VR might have just gotten the position, but it was a nice side-by-side
but a
battle
3-second time penalty for VR.
Oh, that might, that might affect him at the end of the race, but it was a nice side-by-side battle between the Red Bull and the Renault there for a solid few corners here on the last lap.
And Knight does get P11.
There we go. On the penalties, Knight does get the P11 from VR.
Let's mention Carter. He finishes in 7th position in his home race, so a pretty good result for him. Pubed in 8th position. The fellow American, the two drivers right there, 7th and 8th in their home Grand Prix. But it's Sweet Crown 19 who wins it. Jer in 2nd, Isaac Kush in 3rd. And it's extra rotation in 4th. Sophion in 5th, Infamous Pillars in 6th, Carter in 7th, Pubed in 8th. Josh 2 in 9th. 10th for Lewis, rounding off the top 10. Knight in 11th. VR in 12th. 13th for Chris. Jamie in 14th. 15th for Gurman. 16th for Jediant. And Estunik disqualified from the race for too many penalties.
Yep, and solid showing by Sophion, moving up 9 spots from the start of the race. Extra rotation going up 8 spots, sorry, as Gerdman ends the race in style there. Running into the wall as he crosses the line. And yeah, there we go, Sophion. He's given driver of the day. After, like I was saying, he went up 9 spots from where he started, so a pretty good race from him, but also a very solid race from the Michael Schumacher-looking Sweet Crown 19.
Oh, boy. When are we going to see the Crimson Chin off the podium, ladies and gentlemen? May never happen. But Sweet Crown 19 nonetheless wins another United States Grand Prix, his 2nd in ISRL Esports, and he extends his lead in the championship with another 42 points on the board. In fact, I think 43 is, I believe he... No, wait, no. Did Izan have fastest lap at the end? No, it's Jamie who got fastest lap for 132.1. But there you go. Sweet Crown, Jer, Kush, extra rotation, Sophion, Pillars, Carter, Pubed, Josh, and Lewis. That's your top 10. It's Knight in 11, 12 for VR, 13 for Chris, 14th for Jamie, and 15th for Gurman, 16th for Jediant, and 17th with a disqualification for Estunik. And that was the United States Grand Prix. And if you can just suggest the drivers that we need into the interview room.
All right, who are we looking to grab?
We're getting Sweet Crown. We're going to get Jer. We're going to get Izat. Even if even if we are taking a chance for another demonetization on the
Take
stream.
The chance.
I don't think it doesn't matter. We're not making any money off the videos yet anyway, but it would be nice to have the clean record on YouTube standpoint.
Yeah, so it's Izat, Sweet Crown, and Jer.
Yes.
So I'll get those two. Okay, there we go. Suggested 2.
Was who's not available to?
I'm getting here. Give me a second.
I've received my 11,150 pit coins for the umpteenth millionth time. Thank you, F1 2020, for continuously telling me that I have those coins.
There we go. All right. There we go. And there's there's Jer.
All right, let's get him in here, ladies and gentlemen, for the interviews. It says Jer's offline, but I don't know if I think that's just him appearing offline. We'll just have them trickle in one at a time, and we'll just interview them as they enter, if they enter.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, it was a solid drive from Sucron 19, a nice rebound drive after the DNF last week. So it's nice to see him back in strong showing. But I think it was a good race all around, to be honest, from pretty much everyone.
Lots of good, nice battle, side-by-side action. Overall, I'm happy with that race. It went very well. It was exciting, as it usually is in the United States. We had a little bit of a special moment for Isaac with that pole position because of the rain. He got that on the cusp, and we're still waiting, but I don't know if everybody's going to be joining in. Oh, we have one.
Yep. Speaking of Izat, we got Izat that just joined in, and I think Jer
doesn't want me to hear that.
It's taking a little bit here, yep, and Jer just joined in as well. So I'll have to wait till everything sinks before we can get truly started. Oh, there we go.
So I'll get the McLaren on board since you have joined first. You get to get the first interview, despite that awful microphone. Isaac Kush, you got pole position in the race. You finish on the podium again, a familiar spot so far in the season. Talk us through that race in the best way possible that you can.
I think that pole position was absolutely deserved because I just saw an opportunity to go in front of those that were slowing down, and I just took it, and it got me pole. So I think that will be my only pole of the season. The race was kind of boring though. It was just me following the top two, but I wasn't able to keep up. And I just pitted for Sauce to get fastest lap, but Jamie cut me, so I didn't even get fastest lap. But that was the race for me.
That was the race for Izad, but it was still a good one. You finish on the podium again, another haul of points. And Jared, let's talk the race with you. Sweet Crown, whether or not by choice or just by the fact he doesn't care, he has not decided to join the interview room. But let's talk you through the race, and let's. What's your reaction with the P2?
Yeah, I just picked up too many penalties. It's just my own fault, but P2 is still a good result, still podium. So I'm happy with the points. So we'll keep moving on to Spain next week.
Now, I'm going to play maybe a little bit of drama here, but I did see a few times that Sweet Crown 19 could have made the possible overtake on you. What do you think might be going through Sweet Crown's mind now battling with you? We saw a little bit of a disdain, at least, for the move with you in the last race. You receiving only a 5-second penalty for that. So what do you think's going through Sweet Crown 19's mind going in the future battles with you?
I think he's scared of me. He knows I'm faster than him, and he's just scared of me. He's scared to battle me. So he knows I have the pace advantage over him, and he's just too scared to make contact with me because he knows he will spin out and blame it on me. But yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
That's what that's what we wanted to hear. That's going to be the headline now.
Okay.
Yep, I think this is probably a great place to end it after.
Exactly. We don't
that.
need to kind of join. We don't need to hear it.
Nice little cliffhanger
anyway,
here.
Thank you so much for joining us. That was the United States Grand Prix, and my name is ISRL Esports. You were joined by Fallen Monkeys in the co-commentary booth, and thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful night. Join us next week for the Spanish Grand Prix. Thank you so much, and have yourself a great night.